In the first 100 days that Donald Trump has been in office, we've really had something that's been unprecedented before in any presidency, and that's the announcement of $5 trillion worth of investments into the United States in the first 100 days. Now, this hasn't been an accident. This is something that Trump has been pushing for the entire time since day one that he's been in office and since before he was in office. It's not the normal thing that presidents do, and that's why it's such an unprecedented amount. Normally what presidents do is they'll go overseas with an entourage of CEOs, and this will be generally definitely not in the first 100 days of the presidency, maybe in the second or third year or something like that. They'll go overseas with a number of CEOs and sell $100 billion worth of Boeing aircraft over a 5 to 10 year period or something like that. Or they'll get an arms deal for $100 billion or under $100 billion, or, maybe, I believe last time when Trump was in office, he did do a big Saudi Arabian arms deal that might have been like 180 something billion. I can't remember what the number was. It was a large arms deal, but it's still nothing compared to the size of what's been announced so far in this second Trump administration. $5 trillion. It's a massive amount. It's almost 20% of the U.S. economy. Now, this is, in 1 year, $5 trillion would be close to 20%, about 17%, I believe, of the U.S. economy. Now, most of these investments are going to occur over a number of years, generally about 4 years for the large investments. But that's still an unprecedented amount. We've never had these kinds of investments announced before, especially in some of the areas that they're going into, such as AI and semiconductors. These are things, as well as pharmaceuticals. Now, I previously did a video on the pharmaceutical investment in the U.S. It's a short video, but I go into the $166 billion that I counted in just about 2 months, so in less than 100 days, of pharmaceutical investments announced in the United States, and most of those are going to be in the next year or two. So the great thing about all these investments is they are going to begin to be invested this year, and we'll see a lot of progress as far as growth and productivity going into the United States this year. So it will be visible this year. Hopefully, when it comes to government spending, we will get some reduction in the overall federal spending. That's a decision that's up to Congress, though, so I'm not sure what we're going to get there. I'm not really going to count on getting much of a reduction in government spending, but DOJ has pointed out a lot of things that could be reduced and entire agencies that could be erased that we really don't have a need for. It's a lot of wasteful spending going on with government. And all this investment would offset that sugar high that we previously had from all this government spending. So we can kind of substitute in the investment spending for the non-functional government spending. One of the things I wanted to do is just read off some of the largest investments that are going on. These have been announced before, but I just really feel like they're worth mentioning because they are so large. They're actually unprecedented. So the first one on the list is Project Stargate, which is the artificial intelligence infrastructure investment that's led by Japan's SoftBank as well as OpenAI and Oracle. And that's $500 billion of investment into the United States. That's going to occur over the next 4 years. Then in addition to that, there was Apple with their own $500 billion investment in manufacturing and training in the United States. That's also over 4 years. Then also we have NVIDIA, which is the largest chip manufacturer. They don't actually manufacture the chips. They design the chips, and they have companies like TSMC actually do the manufacturing. But NVIDIA is going to invest $500 billion in AI infrastructure over the next 4 years in the U.S., and a lot of those are going to be supercomputer, or what they call AI factories, is what Jensen Huang of NVIDIA is calling them. So these are massive, essentially data centers, AI data centers that they're going to be building in the United States. $500 billion worth of investments. Then we have IBM announced $150 billion worth of investments over the next 5 years in the United States. And then TSMC, the company that actually manufactures, they have what are called the fabs. These are the factories that actually produce the microchips. They have an announcement of $100 billion in the United States. Then some of the other large investments in the U.S. are the pharmaceutical ones, pharmaceutical investments, like I already mentioned in my other video. And Johnson & Johnson, $55 billion. Roche, which is a Swiss company, $50 billion. Eli Lilly, $27 billion. Then we have ADQ, based in the United Arab Emirates, and Energy Capital Partners announced a $25 billion energy investment in energy infrastructure. Then also another drug company, Novartis, they're a Swiss company, $23 billion in the United States. Hyundai, the Korean auto manufacturer, $21 billion in the United States. And then there's a number of other companies. There's some other big ones that are $20 billion investments. There's just too many investments to list, but they total out to be about $5 trillion. Now that does not include the $1.5 billion or $1.4 billion, or excuse me, not billion, the $1.4 trillion of investment that the United Arab Emirates plans to make in the United States. Let me just check if that's correct. Yes, it's $1.4 trillion in the U.S. from the United Arab Emirates. Now that's over a 10-year period, but then we also have Saudi Arabia announcing $600 billion over a 4-year period. Now these are not included in those $5 trillion total investments in the United States. So we have unprecedented investments that are coming into the United States beginning this year. Most of them are over the next 4 years. A lot of this investment is going to be done in the next 2 years. Now, hopefully that's going to balance off a lot of the other imbalances we have in the economy right now. And one of the biggest imbalances we have is housing. A lot of the housing market in most of the United States is overpriced, and it looks like it's ready for a turn. I'm going to do some more videos on the housing market. The other thing is the stock market is still overvalued. So according to the Buffett indicator, we still have a very high valuation on the stock market. I think it's still well above 160% on the Buffett indicator. This is historically high. It should be closer to 100% or even below 100% for the long-term average. And it's just an indicator that the stock market is overpriced over the long run, over the long term. However, these investments don't really have much to do with the stock market or stock market prices, because these investments are going directly into brick and mortar investments that are mostly manufacturing investments in the United States. So it's not something it's not just a financialized investment that is being invested into the U.S. stock market. This is going into bricks and mortar things that will mean new production in the United States.